Today we're going to take a little walk down history lane and talk about the United States of America history and the history of money and God's money, which is gold and silver. The only money that we find in the Bible is gold and silver. The only constitution of money is gold and silver. And for the first 157 years of our republic, our money was backed by gold and silver, so we had real money. In 1913, the Federal Reserve System was founded. And like all central banks, it benefited the bankers and the politicians. It didn't benefit the people. It actually hurt our economy. But it didn't really have any teeth in it until 1933. So from 1913 to 1933, the real money, which was backed by gold and silver, and the monopoly money, which was issued by the Federal Reserve System, circulated side by side. In 1933, though, everything changed. FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president at the time, just a few months after his inauguration, confiscated all the real money. He confiscated the gold coins. This was what your grandparents used when they went to the grocery store to buy their food. This is a $20 1-ounce gold coin. He confiscated all of these, and he also confiscated the gold certificates, which were backed by the gold. And so therefore, we had no more real money. We only had these IOUs. The reason your money is called a Federal Reserve note is because a note is an IOU. It's not actually money. The government promises to give you nothing for a Federal Reserve note. If you have a $20 Federal Reserve note, the only thing they'll give you is 2 tens or 4 $5 bills or 20 singles. They promise you nothing of value. Before 1933, our money was backed by gold, so you got something of value. You got a 1-ounce gold coin for a $20 bill. So fast forward from 1933 to today, our dollar has lost 96% of its value. That means that a $20 bill is worth 80 cents. The $20 gold coin is worth $1,700 that your grandparents got in exchange for the $20 bill. This is why Ronald Reagan's famous for saying that the 9 scariest words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help you." Okay. Now, let's move a little bit farther forward. For about almost 50 years, it was illegal for Americans to own gold. In the early 1970s, it became legal to own gold again. So we did a study of what would have happened with 3 different types of investments if you had started in 1970, January 1st, and gone forward 40 years to January 1st to 2010. If you'd invested $10,000 in the stock market, it grew to $105,000. Well, that sounds pretty good. You made 10 times your money. But in reality, because of inflation, you lost about 2/3 of the purchasing power. See, it doesn't really matter how much money you've got, how many dollars it says in your bank account, if they purchase less. Now, if you go into a second type of investment, which is gold bullion, this would be like your Krugerrands, your Maple Leafs, the American Eagles. If you bought gold bullion for $10,000, by 40 years later, it's worth $320,000. Well, you didn't lose money like you had in the stock market, but neither did you make money because inflation was almost exactly that same amount. So you broke even. So the bottom line there is that the bullion does a great job of protecting wealth, but it's not an investment because it only goes up as much as the dollar goes down. Now, if you put your same $10,000 into a different kind of investment gold, which is called investment grade gold, it would have grown to $2.5 million, 7 times as much as bullion and 20 times as much as the stock market. So obviously this is the better investment. Well, what is investment grade gold? Let's move forward another 16 years to 1986 when a company called the Professional Coin Grading Service was founded. And a year later, another company called NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Service, was founded. Both of these companies guaranteed the authenticity of rare coins and the grade of the rare coins. And they put their money where their mouth is. If they're wrong about the authenticity or the grade, they'll actually buy the coin back at full price. So this created a revolution in U.S. coin grading. This was the beginning of the modernization of the grading of coins in the United States of America. In the 26 years since then, U.S. coins have gone up thousands of percent. And in the same period of time, European coins have gone up hundreds of percent. The reason for this is that Europe stayed on the old 4-point grading system that the United States was on in 1986, which is fine, very fine, extremely fine, and uncirculated, whereas the U.S. moved from a 4-point system to a 70-point, very sophisticated system. And good old U.S. ingenuity and marketing caused U.S. coins to just dramatically explode in price. Today, the typical U.S. rare coin compared to a European coin of the same grade and the same rarity is worth anywhere from 10 to 20 times as much. So people say, well, why shouldn't I buy American coins? Well, in our company, we did that up until 4 years ago. Now we only buy European coins. Think of it like the stock market. You wouldn't want to buy Apple computer today as much as this exploded. What you're looking for is the next Apple computer. And that's what we're doing with these coins. Instead of buying the US coins, which have already exploded in price, we're buying the next coins that are going to go up dramatically, and that's the European coins. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit more to I don't know. That's when gold goes to $5,000 an ounce. No one knows if that's going to happen or when that's going to happen, but most of the best observers of gold, the people like Jim Sinclair, who was the only person to call the top of gold in 1980, and who's called every major move in gold since then, he's saying that gold is going to $5,000 an ounce. Another 20 we don't know is a crash of the dollar, or a dollar event, as some people call it, where the dollar dramatically loses value, like it is done in every other country that has ever gone on a pure paper standard. See, we're on a pure paper standard right now. Our money's backed by nothing. It stands to reason that unless we elect politicians who respect the Constitution, or at least have read the Constitution in some cases, and will put us back on a sound money standard, then we're looking towards a dollar event that will not be positive for us. So the best way to protect yourself from such an event is to own gold and silver. The question is the best way to own gold and silver. I really recommend that you read the 10-10-10 Financial Survival Plan, because a lot of people that have read it say that it's the best asset allocation plan they've ever seen for precious metals. It tells you how much money to have in silver bullion, how much money to have in gold bullion, and how much money, or as a percentage, that you should have in investment grade gold and silver. Both gold and silver coins are going to go up dramatically, hundreds of percent in the next 5 years. And so it makes sense to have this type of coin. Now, let me close by giving you a comparison of various different types of investments that you could have invested in over the last 100 years. If you'd invested in the real estate market, according to the Case-Shiller Index, which is the most authoritative measure of housing prices, 55 out of the last 100 years, housing has been down. The stock market has been down 33 of the last 100 years. US Treasuries have been down 27. Even what we call dividend stocks. A lot of people buy stocks that they hope will go up in price, but that also pay dividends. So they've not been down as much as the stock market in general, but they've been down 18 of the last 100 years. Even the next best thing that you could have bought, which is bullion, has been down 10 of the last 100 years. People say, well, how can that be with the government continuing to print money that's backed by nothing, and the dollar becoming worth less and less and less every time they print more dollars? How could gold go down? Because the reason gold goes up is because the dollar becomes worth less and less. So usually gold and silver are like this, running in opposite directions. So if the bullion is going down, that means the dollar is going up. Well, that's true. In the last 100 years, we've had about 10 years where the dollar did go up. Various different things can cause it to happen. For instance, Ronald Reagan took the top tax rate from 70% down to 28%. That was positive for the dollar. In England, they've had 11 years when gold was down. There's only one investment that hasn't had a down year in 100 years, and that's investment grade coins. Now, I want to hasten to say that's not all rare coins. This is what we call investment grade coins, are the finest grade and the most rare coins. And if you have those type of coins, they haven't had a down year in 100 years. So investment grade gold rocks. Okay, the principles of this: cash is trash because inflation is eating up the value of our dollar. Principle number 2, bullion is better because bullion protects the value of your money. But bullion is not an investment. Let me be clear about that. Bullion is not an investment. Some people say, well, gold is up 450% in the last 10 years. How can that not be an investment? The main reason gold is going up is because the dollar is becoming worth less. One great example of this is the example of a house. In 1910, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, typical US residence sold for $4,000. Gold was at $20 an ounce, so that meant that house was worth 200 ounces of gold. Go forward to 100 years to 2010, the same house is now selling for $240,000. But gold is at $1,200 an ounce, so it's still 200 ounces of gold. So the question is, the house in 2010, is that worth 60 times as much as the house in 1910? Obviously not. It cost 60 times as much because the dollar was worth so much less. And the same thing for the 200 ounces of gold in 2010. It cost $240,000 to get 200 ounces of gold. In 1910, it only cost $4,000. Is the 2010 gold worth more? No, it's still gold. It's worth the same. As a matter of fact, for 3,000 years, 1 ounce of gold has bought the same amount of bread, food, clothing, labor, materials, shelter. So the value of gold doesn't change. The price of it changes depending on the currency. This is why you want to go with investor grade gold. We do believe that you should own some silver bullion and some gold bullion. As I mentioned, the 10-10-10 article explains that very thoroughly. But today I just wanted to get across the idea that you want to have a mix of various different kinds of gold with most of your money in investor grade gold because it actually goes up in value rather than just in price. 7 times more than bullion over the last 40 years. Thanks for listening.